Okay, our first guest speaker, I'm going to have E.W. Jackson to come on up here. A little bit about Bishop Jackson. Bishop Jackson has been married for 41 years with 3 children. He served in the United States Marine Corps. He graduated from Harvard Law School, practiced law for 15 years in the Boston area, and is a founder of the Exodus Faith Ministry. He has dedicated his life to God and country. Raised in a foster home, he learned the importance of thrift and hard work and Christian values. After serving in the United States Marine Corps, Jackson studied and graduated from Harvard Law School. From there, he successfully practiced small business law for nearly 15 years, representing countless businesses, fought for job creators, and for property rights. Feeling the call to serve, he left the practice of law to serve his community through the ministry and was consecrated a bishop in 1998. Today, Jackson feels the need to serve again as Virginia's next senator to fight against the internal and the external threats to this country. I introduce to you Bishop E.W. Jackson.
Thank you all. Thank you very much. And buddy, and all the veterans, thank you all for your service. God bless you. God bless each and every one of you. You know, one of the most gratifying things about campaigning is meeting wonderful people, and I haven't met any better group of people than the veterans who have served our country, put their lives on the line. You know, Buddy tells this story, I do have it right? Buddy tells this story about, you know, being a fighter pilot, like, you know, it's just no big deal, and yet we know the danger that so many have put themselves in order to protect the freedoms that we enjoy, and we just appreciate them so much. We owe them a debt of gratitude that we can never repay. And I always tell people, I'm a Vietnam era veteran. I didn't see combat. I would never, ever imply that I did when I knew I didn't. I thought I was going to, but I didn't. I ended up being an air radar technician for bomb-dropping radar that, as sometimes happens in government, never got used to drop bombs. Because when I joined, we were winding down the Vietnam War. I joined in 1970, but my best friend died while serving our country. And I've, as a pastor, buried men who volunteered and were brought home in body bags. I was at a meeting over Memorial Day, and one Vietnam vet was telling a story about how his brother, his younger brother, who was also in the Army, had come down to visit him at a base, and I think it was in Da Nang, but they were standing out on the tarmac talking, and his brother was at Clarkson, out of harm's way, and they were talking, and the alert went off. He said, and he turned immediately to see what might be going on. He said, and the moment he turned, his brother was shot dead right in front of his eyes. He said he took him home on Christmas Day in a body bag. Folks, that's the kind of sacrifice that has been made to give us what we have. And I just honor those who are prepared to do that. Now look, all over this Commonwealth for the last year, I've been saying the same thing essentially. I thought that as time went on, I'd stop saying it because I figured, well, you know, people have probably heard it before. I don't need to keep saying it. But folks, I'm convinced I need to keep saying it because I'm trying to change our national vocabulary, because we've got people in the White House and in our government who I think want to divide us. They want to set us at each other's throats. They want to have us fighting each other, race, gender, you name it. So I tell everybody, my name is E.W. Jackson. I'm a candidate for United States Senate. I am not an African American. I'm an American. I'm an American. I'm proud of my country. I love my country. I don't make any excuses for it. And frankly, I'm disgusted by a leader who has benefited from so much that this country has to offer, running around the world apologizing. I guarantee you, the very places where he apologized, not far from there is the grave of some Americans who gave their lives for the freedom of others, and he's bowing before thugs and dictators. We don't owe the world an apology. The world owes us a debt of thanks, because the world has benefited from the existence of the United States of America. What would the world be like without the good old USA? I don't even want to imagine. Yes, indeed. Now, folks, I don't have much time, and I think some of you know where I'm coming from. I believe that we've got fiscal and economic problems of a serious nature. I won't go into them in great detail, but just in case you haven't yet met my mascot, let me introduce you to my symbol for how seriously I take the budget. I call it the Jackson Axe. Wouldn't you love to take this to the Department of Education and the EPA and the United Nations and these agencies that are spending our money like there's no tomorrow? Folks, we've got to cut spending. We can't freeze it. We can't just slow it down. We've got to cut spending. We've got to shrink the size of government. It's just that plain and simple. And you know, I love taking this out because when my time is getting short, usually the moderator is afraid to approach me with it. But folks, I believe that our fiscal and economic problems are symptoms of a much deeper problem. And the deeper problems are that we have walked away from our Constitution, the most successful governing document in the history of mankind. And we have a Supreme Court justice who would recommend the South African Constitution instead of the American Constitution, to which I say, well, then go to South Africa and be a judge there and leave us alone. And a president who claims to have taught constitutional law but doesn't understand why our Constitution doesn't give the government more positive rights, as he calls it. Because they designed it for limited enumerated powers. Because they understood that if you limit the power of government, you maximize individual freedom. And they had it right. They had it right. And these folks in Washington don't seem to get that. Nancy Pelosi laughs when asked, do you think we have the right to mandate health care? Are you kidding? She says, are you kidding? I mean, folks, we got to come back to it. The Judeo-Christian values that undergird that Constitution, because remember, our founders didn't believe that the Constitution gave us rights. They believed the Constitution simply protected rights that our Creator gave us. And within those rights, yes, personal responsibility and individual liberty. Folks, I grew up in a foster home until the age of 9.5 years old. I was an F student in 5th grade. I was a juvenile delinquent. I was probably on my way to jail or worse. My father came back into my life. He took me and sat me down when he brought me to live with him and said, son, every day with me can be like heaven on earth, or I'll tear you behind all the pieces. You make the choice. Well, that was a pretty easy choice for me to make. And I went on to become an A student in 6th grade, graduated summa cum laude from the University of Massachusetts with a Phi Beta Kappa Key, and then on to Harvard Law School. Now, I don't say that to brag on myself, but to brag on my dad, because he had values. He believed in this country, folks. It wasn't affirmative action. It wasn't a government program. It took a loving father. And by the way, we need to reinstitute our belief in the power of the family instead of the power of government to raise our children. And then lastly, our belief in our Creator, because if our Creator didn't give us rights and responsibilities, who gives them to us? The government? Barack Obama? Maybe he thinks he does. But you know what? If you don't have absolutes and there's no ultimate authority, then might makes right. And folks, every time that experiment has been tried, it ends at the point of a gun, and it ends with millions of people dying. Because sooner or later, somebody stands up and says, no, I will not go along. No, you cannot do that with my property. And we've seen history replete with instances of where people have died because somebody decided there was no authority but them. And for the good of the people, as Mao said, one of our presidents, some of his people's favorite hero, I guess, he said, well, when they told him millions were starving as a result of his reforms, he said, well, if you're going to make an omelet, you have to break a few eggs. That's where we're headed. That's where we're headed unless we arrest this. Not tomorrow morning, but sooner or later, step by inexorable step. That's where we're going. Now, folks, so this is about freedom. This is about freedom. I love this country. I am standing before you as a candidate for United States Senate because of freedom, folks. Freedom. That's what we're fighting for. Anybody who doesn't understand that doesn't understand where we are. We were just talking about it earlier. Every day there's some new rule, some new regulation, some new intrusion into the lives of the American people. And they'll never, ever stop unless we stop them in November. I'll tell you what, Barack Obama graduated from Harvard Law School, so did Tim Kaine, but they drank the Kool-Aid. I did not drink the Kool-Aid. And folks, come November, we're going to send those Kool-Aid drinkers into retirement. Freedom is what it's all about. My country, 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty, to thee I sing. Land where my fathers died, land of the pilgrim's pride, from every mountainside, let freedom ring. Folks say, how can you love this country so much? This country has slavery. Folks, America didn't invent slavery. Slavery is a universal institution that existed everywhere, but only one nation was formed on the principle that we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal and endowed by their Creator with inalienable rights, and among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. You know what, folks? I tell people, some get mad at me when I say it. You know what? I don't care how my ancestors got here. I'm just glad they got here. But this is where I want to be. And I love that second verse. Our Father God, to thee, author of liberty, to thee we sing. Long may our land be bright with freedom's holy light. Protect us by thy might, our God and King. Keep praying, keep believing, keep working. Yes, I ask for your vote, I ask for your prayers, I ask for your support, but I'll tell you something, and I've said this to Susan, to George, to every other candidate in the race. You have my word, many of you said this to me. Come June 13th, if it turns out that I'm not the nominee, I am not about to quit. I'm going to be right in there pitching for whoever the nominee is. In fact, you know that acts, I told them I'll be happy to turn this right over to the nominee and say, here, you get the swing of the ride. But folks, we've got to make sure that we make the right choice. It can't be about who we've known the longest. It's not about money. The money is going to come to the nominee. It's got to be about who is the right person to defeat Barack Obama and Tim Kaine. Now, if you've decided that you really believe I'm the right person, we've got a sign-up sheet. We need your help. We need your support. We need you at the polls. But whatever happens, you can rest assured, it's about our country, not about me. And I'm going to be right in there fighting for the United States of America. God bless you, and God bless our great nation.